The rain hit my windshield so hard it blurred the world into streaks of silver and black. I had just pulled into my driveway when I noticed two shapes huddled beneath my porch light. One was small, wrapped in a pink blanket. The other sat on the concrete steps with her arms around the child, shoulders shaking against the December cold. For a second, I thought I was seeing strangers. Then the woman lifted her face. My sister. I froze with both hands gripping the steering wheel. 5 years had passed since we last spoke without an argument. 5 years since she chose everyone else over me. 5 years since she stood silently while our family treated me like a disposable inconvenience. Yet there she was, soaked, broken, and holding her 3-year-old daughter against her chest. I stepped out into the rain. Emma? She looked up. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The little girl buried her face deeper into her mother's shoulder. What happened? I asked. Emma laughed once, a hollow sound that barely resembled laughter. My husband brought his mistress home tonight. The words hung in the freezing air. She swallowed hard. His mother helped him pack our things. I felt something cold settle inside me. They threw us out, she whispered. I opened the passenger door. Get in. Emma stared at me. Now, I said quietly, because she had no idea whose name her husband had just crossed. The heater hummed while rain tapped against the windows of my car. Emma sat rigid beside me, clutching her daughter so tightly that her knuckles looked pale. The little girl had fallen asleep from exhaustion, her damp curls stuck to her cheeks. Neither of us spoke as I pulled onto the highway. Silence had always lived between us. Even before tonight, we carried years of unfinished hurt. She knew it. I knew it. Finally, Emma stared through the windshield and whispered, "You should leave us at a motel." I almost laughed. You think that's why I stopped? Her eyes shifted toward me. I don't know why you stopped, she said. That answer hurt more than I expected. She truly believed she was alone. When we reached my house, I carried her sleeping daughter inside while Emma followed slowly. The moment she stepped into my kitchen, she broke. Not crying, not shaking. She simply collapsed into a chair and covered her face. Then she told me everything. The mistress, the lies, the money, the humiliation, the months of planning behind her back. And when she finished, one detail changed everything. My name had been mentioned during their celebration for months already. I set a mug of tea in front of Emma and waited. The clock above my stove ticked through the silence. My name? I finally asked. Emma nodded without looking up. Her daughter slept on my couch beneath a thick blanket, unaware that her entire world had shifted tonight. They talked about you constantly, Emma said. A strange feeling settled in my chest. Why? Her jaw tightened. Because they hated that you never needed them. I leaned back slowly. Emma rubbed her eyes. Whenever your name came up, his mother would say you thought you were better than everyone. I almost smiled. The woman had met me 3 times. She said you were selfish for living alone. Selfish for not helping family. Selfish for refusing to lend money. The irony was almost funny. Years earlier, I had offered help. Nobody wanted it. They only wanted control. Emma stared at the steam rising from her cup. 3 weeks ago, I heard something. The room suddenly felt smaller. What? She hesitated. His mistress wasn't new. I felt my stomach harden. How long? Almost 2 years. I looked toward the sleeping child on the couch. 2 years. 2 years of deception while Emma built birthdays, holidays, and memories around a marriage that no longer existed. Then she said the sentence that changed my plans completely. He wasn't just cheating. She looked directly into my eyes. He was preparing to take everything she legally owned. I didn't answer immediately. Outside, the storm continued to pound against the windows, but inside my house, every sound seemed distant. What do you mean, everything? I asked. Emma reached into her purse and pulled out a folder that looked as though it had been opened 100 times. I found these before he threw us out. She slid the papers across the table. I opened them. The first page was a loan application. The second was a property document. The third made my pulse slow. My brother-in-law had been moving assets for months. Not his assets. Emma's. The small inheritance our grandmother left her before she died. The savings account she had built since college. Even paperwork connected to a property she legally owned before marriage. He told me he was simplifying our finances, Emma said quietly. I kept reading. Every signature line carried Emma's name. Several signatures looked wrong. Very wrong. Did you sign these? She shook her head. No. I looked again. The handwriting resembled hers. But not enough. Not when you knew what to look for. A chill ran through me. This wasn't a man leaving his wife. This was a man preparing an exit strategy funded by her future. Emma watched my face carefully. You see it too, don't you? I nodded. For the first time that night, anger wasn't the strongest thing I felt. Certainty was. Then my phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice laughed. Tell Emma she's not getting a penny back. The call disconnected, and I recognized exactly who it was. I stared at the dark screen for several seconds after the call ended. Emma's face drained of color. You know who that was? I nodded. Yes. The voice belonged to his mother. I had heard it only a handful of times over the years, but some people carried a certain satisfaction when they heard others. Hers was unforgettable. Emma lowered her eyes. She hated me from the beginning. No, I said quietly. She hated anyone she couldn't control. That distinction mattered. I gathered the documents into a neat stack and stood. What are you doing? Emma asked. Making a phone call. Years earlier, I had worked for a legal records company. Most people assumed I spent my days pushing paperwork. What they never understood was how many financial disasters crossed my desk. Patterns became familiar. So did warning signs. And these documents were full of them. Within 20 minutes, an attorney I trusted was reviewing scanned copies. The silence while he examined them felt endless. Finally, he spoke. Olivia, where did these come from? Hearing my own name made Emma look up. Why? These aren't isolated mistakes. My grip tightened around the phone. What are they? The attorney exhaled slowly. Someone built an entire paper trail around fraudulent transfers. Emma covered her mouth. Then came the sentence neither of us expected. Based on these records, your brother-in-law may not be the person directing this. The room went still. Who is? I asked. His answer landed like a stone. From what I'm seeing, his mother appears to be running everything. Emma stared at me as though the floor had vanished beneath her. For years, she had blamed her husband for every cruel decision, every insult, every humiliation. Now another possibility stood in front of us. He wasn't leading. He was following. My attorney spent another hour explaining what he saw in the documents. The transfers, the signatures, the timing. None of it looked spontaneous. It looked organized, deliberate, experienced. When the call ended, Emma sat motionless. I defended her, she whispered. I said nothing. She'd insult me, and I'd make excuses. She'd interfere in our marriage, and I'd tell myself she meant well. Tears slid down her face. I kept thinking if I tried harder, she'd finally accept me. That sentence hurt because it sounded familiar. Not her story. Mine. The difference was that I had learned the lesson years earlier. Emma was learning it tonight. Near midnight, another call arrived. This time, the number wasn't hidden. It belonged to my brother-in-law. I answered on speaker. His voice sounded irritated rather than concerned. Where is she? Not hello. Not is she safe. Not how is your daughter. Just where is she? Emma closed her eyes. I felt something inside her finally break. She isn't coming back, I said. A long silence followed. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. Good, he replied. That'll make tomorrow easier. Every instinct in my body sharpened. What happens tomorrow? His answer came, without hesitation. The house sale closes at 10. Emma stood so quickly her chair crashed onto the floor. Because she owned half that house. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. The fallen chair lay on its side between us while Emma stared at the phone. You sold the house, she whispered. My brother-in-law sighed, as if she were inconveniencing him. It's already done. No, Emma said. I never agreed to sell it. You signed the paperwork. His confidence vanished the moment those words left his mouth, because he had just admitted everything. I reached for another phone and started recording. Interesting, I said. Silence. Then he realized his mistake. What are you talking about? You just confirmed she never knowingly approved the sale. The line went dead. Emma looked ready to collapse again, but something different appeared behind her tears. Not fear. Anger. Real anger. The kind that finally arrives when grief runs out of excuses. By sunrise, our attorney had filed emergency motions. The closing was halted. The funds were frozen. And the buyers were notified that ownership was being legally challenged. Around noon, we walked into a conference room packed with lawyers, title representatives, and one very furious mother-in-law. The moment she saw Emma, she smirked. The moment she saw me, she frowned. Then our attorney began presenting evidence. Forged signatures, alter records, financial transfers, recorded admissions. The smirk disappeared. For the first time, I watched certainty leave her face. She kept glancing toward her son, waiting for him to save her. He couldn't, because every path she created now led directly back to her. And then the investigator entered carrying a new file nobody expected. The conference room became completely silent when the investigator placed the file on the table. My mother-in-law's confidence vanished so quickly it was almost frightening. "What is that?" she asked. Nobody answered her. The investigator opened the folder and began speaking. The forged house documents were only the beginning. Bank records revealed similar transactions stretching back years. Not just involving Emma. Other relatives. An elderly aunt. A cousin. Even her late husband's estate. Small amounts taken carefully. Larger amounts hidden behind paperwork. Every trail pointed toward the same person. Her. My brother-in-law looked physically sick as the evidence accumulated. For the first time, I realized he hadn't expected this either. He had participated in the fraud. But he had also spent years believing his mother was protecting him. Now he was discovering he had merely been another tool. Emma sat beside me, without speaking. Her hand rested on mine. Steady. Strong. Different. The woman who arrived under my porch that night would have begged for understanding. This woman didn't. When the meeting ended, the house remained legally protected. The stolen assets entered recovery proceedings. Criminal investigations followed. My brother-in-law lost everything he thought he had secured. His mother lost the thing she valued most. Control. Several months later, Emma and her daughter moved into a bright little home filled with laughter instead of fear. One evening she looked at me and smiled. "You didn't save me." I smiled back. "No. You finally chose yourself." And that changed everything.